Do you want to stay more focused on the right goals in your life, or even just figure out what the right goals are for you? Do you want clarity? Do you want better work-life balance? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to Success Through Failure.
Welcome to the Success Through Failure podcast, the show that reveals failure as your path to success. You'll listen to intriguing interviews with some of the most successful people on the planet and learn how their failures became a launchpad for success and how yours can too. Here's your host, former Division I All-American wrestler, former Division I head coach, speaker, and personal coach, Jim Harshaw.
Welcome to another episode of Success Through Failure. This is your host, Jim Harshaw, and I'm bringing you another solo episode today. And this one is on taking action. Like, you're sold on the idea that you need to take action. You're in a rut and you know you have more potential in you and you just want to break out. You just want to break free. And you know you can do this, but you're just not sure where to start. And maybe it's in your work and getting a promotion or doing better at work, or maybe it's in your health and fitness. You just want to, lose weight or get more fit or run a marathon or whatever that big goal is. Or maybe it's in your relationships, or maybe it's that you just want to get back to having more fun in your life or find more balance in your life. And you know that you have to take action. You're sold on this idea like, okay, Jim, I got it. I get it. I have to take action. But what is the right action? You just don't know where to start. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is where to start. And it's this, Dr. Gilbert, I got this from Dr. Gilbert of the Success Hotline. I'm not sure where he got it from, but I've heard it before. It's the start that stops most people. It's the start that stops most people. We all know that magic happens when you take action, right? And I just experienced this. I'm actually in Florida as I record this, in sunny Florida. Actually, sunny Florida turned rainy Florida. And I woke up early a few days ago, and I brought my kayak down here. I have an inflatable kayak. This thing's awesome, by the way. If you're looking for a good, fun summer toy, this thing's awesome. It's a Sea Eagle 330. SeaEagle.com is the company. They're not a sponsor of this show, but I tell everybody about this because this boat is awesome. So it packs up. You can fold it up and it's carried under your arm. I've paddled it on Class 4 whitewater. I've taken it overnight camping. I've had 2 or 3 people in it. I've surfed it on ocean waves, etc. But anyway, we were on the Gulf, staying on the Gulf of Mexico, Anna Maria Island, for a couple of days, and I woke up early and I wanted to paddle this thing down to the end of the island. It was about a 5-mile paddle, and I woke up early and I did. I got in the boat and I started paddling, and it was a long paddle, longer than I thought it would take. It's not a real fast kayak because it's inflatable. It's not a streamlined ocean kayak or anything like that. And I just had to dig and dig and dig and paddle, just putting my blade in the water for hours without stopping almost. And, you kind of wonder sometimes, like what am I doing here? Is this worth it? Is this fun? Is this what I was hoping it would be? And then, And I started thinking to myself, there's this idea called trail magic. If you're an outdoors person or a hiker, you might have heard of this. But when you're hiking, there's just magic that happens. You're walking along and all of a sudden you see something really cool. Maybe it's a bear or a fox or an amazing waterfall or something like that. And it's called trail magic, right? It's just this kind of stuff that happens if you're out there. If you're out there doing things, if you take action, things happen. And so I'm paddling. And if you've seen the video of this, I took a video from out in the kayak. I got white sunscreen smeared all over my face and didn't really care how I looked, but I held the video up in front of my face and talked about this magic a little bit. And so I'm thinking about this, and I look to my left, and there's a pod of dolphins about 100 yards off. And I turn my boat out towards them, and I just beeline straight towards them. And I got pretty close. I probably got 50 feet from them. And it was just fascinating. It was so cool to see these things, to be out in the ocean, out in the Gulf of Mexico, fairly far out there in this little boat, and it's just me and these dolphins. And it was just magic, right? And the only way that magic happens is by taking action. It's by, I had to wake up early and before my family was awake and get out the door and put my boat in the water and start paddling. I'd pump this thing up and plan for it and, get water and sunscreen and all the stuff that goes into it. And I was just so glad I did it. And at the end of the paddle, right when I got to sort of the takeout point, I'm paddling along and there's this, and the water's pretty clear because I'm in a pretty shallow area, and I paddle over what looked like to be a big dark spot on the bottom, and which is seaweed. There's just sort of clumps of seaweed throughout the area there. It's kind of dark clumps here and there. But this was actually this really big clump of what looked like seaweed. And I'm looking down, I'm paddling over this thing, and I'm looking straight underneath me. I'm like, that doesn't look like seaweed. I'm like, is that moving? I couldn't tell if it was moving or not moving. It looked like it was moving, but I'm like, maybe it's just the wind and the boat moving past whatever it is. And I circle around, and all of a sudden, this big black mass separates into two. I'm like, what is that? And I look, and there's two people standing over on shore with their hand above their eyes, kind of looking into the distance. And I said, are those manatees? And they were manatees. I swam right over top of these things. It was so cool. And I'd seen a manatee once before, but I'd never been in the water in a kayak with manatees before. But this magic happened because I took action. So magic happens when you take action. So the question is, you're overwhelmed, you're busy, there's not enough time in the day. And so how do you take action? How do you take the right action? Because you don't have a whole lot of time to waste time. So it's got to be efficient. It's got to be correct. It's got to be the right thing you feel like, right? It's got to be the right action. And what do you do? What is the right action? What's the next step in starting the business or making more money or fixing your relationship or getting healthier, whatever the case might be, becoming more consistent, getting more productive, being more focused at work, whatever those things that are that you want to achieve, right? You want to take that grand vacation, or you want to, complete a triathlon or lose 30 pounds, whatever it is. It's like, what's the right action? Because there's so much information out there. There's just information overload. And sometimes if you start doing research on this stuff, it's like, okay, there's 100 things I can do. Which of these 100 things do I do? And you kind of get paralysis by analysis. So where do you start? What do you do? How do I start taking action? I'm going to give you at least 4 points that I have written down here in front of me in my notes. I may come up with some more as we go here. But here's number one. One of my clients told me this once, and initials RL, you know who you are. But we were talking about sort of advances that he needed to make or wanted to make in his business. And he talked about, and he said this, he said, magic happens when I meet with people. Magic happens when I meet with people, right? So we are designed to want to connect with people, right? And so it feels good. Meaningful relationships, they feel good, they're important, but also magic happens then, right? So if you're wondering how to lose 30 pounds and where to get started, and you don't know, there's a million diets out there. There's the ketogenic diet and paleo and every, Beachbody diet and all the million other diets out there. It's like, where do I start? Well, go connect with somebody. Maybe connect with somebody who's already done this, right? Or connect with somebody who probably has the same challenge as you, right? They want to start that business, or maybe they already started that business. And you want to learn from them. Magic happens when you connect with people. So if you're wondering where to start, this is the best place, period. Make a phone call, send an email to a person and connect with them. Find time to have a cup of coffee, find time to have a conversation. On your drive home from work, call them, whatever it is, connect with people. Connect with one person. Magic, there's no telling what's going to happen when you connect with people. It's just like networking, right? Whenever you network, there's no you can go in and try to, go to a networking event and try to predict what's going to come out of it. You just can't. You can try, But all kinds of crazy things happen when you just connect with people. It doesn't always mean new people. It can be people who are already in your network, people you already know, but connect with people. So that's number one. You don't know what action to take? Connect with someone. One person. Doesn't matter. And you're sitting there going, well, it has to be the right person because I don't have much time and I have to take time off of work or whatever the case might be. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Identify 3 people in your head right now and just pick one of them. Make the phone call, send the email. If you hit stop on this podcast and don't even listen to the rest of it, you're going to get enough value out of that one meeting to account for everything else you might learn and listen to the rest of this thing. That's the one thing. If you're going to do just one thing, do that. Okay, so that's number one. Magic happens when you connect with people. Connect with one person around this topic, even if you don't know what exactly it is that you want, right? Okay, number 2, prototyping. And I got this from Bill Burnett, who co-authored the book, Designing Your Life, Stanford professor. It was episode 124. So he's a design professor, right? Designing things, designing stuff. But he took this concept of designing stuff and flipped it on its head and sort of morphed it into designing your life. And it's a lot of these same concepts. They're just parallels in terms of applying them to designing products and businesses, to applying them to designing your life. And one of them is prototyping, right? So prototyping is a way, it's sort of along the lines of the lean startup model. If you're an entrepreneur and you heard of the lean startup and the lean startup model, it's this idea of not go, or if you're in the software industry, you know agile marketing. It's basically this idea of minimum viable product, minimum effective dose. What's the least thing you can do? What's the prototype that you can create that would not require the full investment of all the time and all the money and all the energy? What is the prototype that you can create? And it's the same thing in terms of this. So it's like, okay, maybe you're trying to figure out the business. I want to start a business. I don't know what business. Or maybe you kind of have an idea what the business is, but you're not exactly sure what kind of business. Well, how can you test this idea? How can you take the first step? How can you prototype? Maybe here's one great, this is such a great idea and a great way in terms of starting a business or just sort of finding solutions or finding ways to create solutions that people actually want, is to just ask this question. This is what I consider one of the magic questions. And that's probably another podcast episode in itself in terms of magic questions. There's different magic questions that I've learned over the years, and this is one of them. It's if you had a magic wand, number one, it would be, what keeps you up at night in terms of, what keeps you up at night or what are your biggest challenges? And then number 2 would be, if you had a magic wand, how would you solve this problem? If you had a magic wand, no limitations, what would the solution look like? And you start asking people that, and you ask, 10 or 20 people that until you start getting a critical mass of people telling you the same thing, then now you have this maybe business concept that people actually want, right? So that's how you can test an idea. That's how you can prototype an idea. If it's the same thing around, if you're trying to lose weight, right, or get healthier, or get fit, or find time to get to the gym, or what exercises do I do? It can be the same thing, right? Number one, it can be going back to the first thing we talked about is connect with people. But number 2 can be like, okay, I can just test out some different diets. Right? I'm going to do maybe just test out a low carb diet just for a couple days, right? Or maybe test out a paleo or a keto or just some kind of, intermittent fasting or whatever the case might be. Test a couple of these out just for a day, just for 2 days, right? Modify your diet, change things, tweak things. You don't have to go all in. Just try one thing. Reducing carbs. Do that, right? Do that for a day. Just cut out, I don't know, instead of having a bowl of cereal, have eggs for breakfast or something like that, right? So this idea of prototyping, that can be having a conversation with somebody. It can be trying things in small doses. It can be listening to a book or reading a book or listening to a podcast about something in that industry that you've maybe not listened to before. Actually think about, okay, if I were in the industry of being let's say a fitness coach, for example, what would be a podcast I would listen to? Well, I might listen to such and such podcast, or I might listen to or read such and such book, or I might attend some seminar or something like that, right? So to try that, do the one thing, do something small to test that idea. You can shadow somebody, right? Go find somebody who's a health coach or a fitness coach or doing that thing that you want to do. Ask them to coffee. Ask them if you can shadow them for an hour. Ask if you can just sit down and meet with them and learn about what they do. One thing, right? Just do the one thing. So that's prototyping. That's number 2. Number 3, ask yourself this question. Ask it out loud as if somebody else asked you the question, and answer it out loud. Ask yourself this question. What has worked? What has worked? It's one of the most powerful questions that I ask my clients. What has worked in the past? And it's fascinating. We're always looking for the next shiny object. We're always looking to try something new. Usually, there's something that has worked in the past. Think about looking to your past a month ago, a year ago, 10 years ago, maybe more. What has worked in the past, right? Maybe it was in a different life. Maybe it was in a different job. Maybe it was in a different marriage. Maybe it was in a different phase of your life. Maybe it was in a different industry. Maybe it was in a different problem, a different challenge, a different thing that you were successful at. What worked then? What has worked? Ask yourself that question and answer that question. And usually you can find something. You go, okay, you know what I need to do? I just need to consistently do that thing. I lost 5 pounds whenever I did this, right? Whenever I started planning my meals every Sunday night and I went shopping and I planned my meals for the week. Whatever the case might be, and then I was able to eat healthy. That worked. What worked for you in the past? That's a big one. So that's number 3. Number 4, journal. And I'm going to give you some real specific things here towards the end of the episode. So stay tuned here. And I'm going to give you also some things to not do. All right. So anyway, the 4th thing in terms of taking action, determining what the right action is number 4 is journaling. Just start writing. Be your own coach. Answer questions like the last questions. What has worked? You can answer the question. Here's three great questions to ask yourself and to answer in a journaling session. What has worked? What's holding me back? And what's the one action that someone trying to figure out the next action could take? If you were giving advice to somebody else, what would you tell them to do? What's one action that someone like you trying to figure out the next action, what the next action is, what's one thing they could do? What's one action they could take? Like talk to a coach, right? That's what I do. I'm a coach. Talk to a coach, make a phone call, just do something, do anything. So let me get into some things not to do, right? Here's what not to do. Read another book, right? Or listen to another podcast. If it's your first one, like I talked about a few minutes ago, that's great. If it's your 10th one, don't do it. Don't do it. Take action. Because that reading another book or listening to another podcast, that's not going to get you there. You've got to do one of the first 4 things I talked about. Meet with people. Number 1 is meet with people. Number 2 is prototyping. Number 3 is ask yourself what has worked. Number 4 is journal. Get outside of your own head and start journaling. So here's what not to do. Number 1 is, like I said, don't read another book or listen to another podcast if it's your 5th or 10th or 20th one. That's not going to get you there. Here's another thing not to do. Don't wait for a better time. The timing is never going to be right. Don't wait for a better time. Take action, move forward, advance the ball. Here's the 3rd thing of what not to do. Don't wait for things to come to you. They're not. Fortune favors the bold. Take action, move forward, do things. Don't sit around and wait and expect things to come to you. They're not going to. I know it's scary. I know it's fearful, but when you feel fear, I was on a call this morning with a guy and he said, when I feel fear, that's when I know I'm doing the right thing. That's when he needs those scary goals to drive him, to motivate him. Set a scary goal. Move towards it. And so let me give you just sort of some ways to wrap your head around this is, you don't need to see that far ahead. You don't need to see the whole way down the path, right? You're going, okay, I know I want to do this, but I don't know how to get there. I know that, it's this big thing that you want to achieve, right? But you don't have to see the whole way down the path. You can travel across the country from New York City to Los Angeles in the dark, seeing 100 feet or 200 feet ahead of you in the headlights, right? You don't need to know everything. You don't need to have all the answers. You won't, even if you think you have them, they're going to be wrong. After step 2 and step 3, everything else changes, right? It's like planning is essential, but plans are useless. I forget who said that, but it was a president or a leader or a military leader maybe, but planning is essential, but plans are useless. Yeah, you can plan, but once, like Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until someone gets punched in the mouth, until you get punched in the mouth. So, you can have a plan. You can have plan step 1, maybe step 2. It doesn't matter after that. Start taking action, start moving forward. The plan will unfold in front of you. And if you don't like where it's going, backtrack and go down a different path. Another one is just momentum. Taking any action creates momentum. Even if it's the wrong action, it creates momentum. You go, okay, well, I know that's not the right way to go. Or you take what you feel like is the wrong action. You go, oh, well, if I had to do this again, and I will do it again, I know a better way to do it. I'm not going to try that tact. I'm going to try a different one. Momentum is real. Just do one thing. And if you fail, you get stung, you get slapped on the wrist, try it again. Try it a different way. Attack with a different mentality. Attack with a different strategy, a different tactic. Reevaluate. And then another one here is focus on the process. Focus on the process, especially when the outcome is big and scary, like climbing Mount Everest or, the old cliche of how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? How do you go from the couch potato to running a marathon? You walk a mile. That's where you start. You walk 1 mile. How do you climb Everest? You start by training by hiking a big hill or a reasonable mountain, right? That's where you start. You can't climb Everest in a day. You can't eat an elephant in a day. You can't go from couch potato to marathoner in a day or a week or a month or even a year in a lot of cases here. You've got to just start. Okay, so some of these three concepts that I just covered here, you don't need to see the whole way down the path. That's the first one. The second one, momentum is real. Just do one thing. And the third one is focus on the process, not the outcome. And just do something. Just do something. If you're still not sure what to do, I'm going to here are some examples, right? So you want to start a business? Find someone who owns a similar business and ask them to have coffee with you. Maybe they're in your town. Maybe if they're not in your town, pick up the phone, ask them to have a conversation. You want to lose weight, but you're not sure which exercise is right for you? Go for a walk. Just go for a walk or start doing push-ups right now. Just start. Create momentum or talk to somebody who's done it, right? Or if you're not sure what diet is right for you, like I said, just cut out the carbs or change 1 meal per day or change from sugary drinks to water. If you drink 5 sugary drinks a day, cut 2 of them out and switch to water, right? Keep it simple. Take action. Create momentum. You want to make $1 million? Talk to somebody who's done it. Or ask yourself, what has worked for me in the past when it comes to making more money? You want to fix your relationship? Plan a date night, right? A dinner or a coffee or whatever. Or do something nice randomly. Buy flowers or a $5 Starbucks gift card or leave a Post-it note on the mirror for your husband or wife or significant other. These are simple things. Take action. Don't wait. Don't expect things to come to you. They're not. Fortune favors the bold. Take one of these actions today. And I admit probably at the end of this, your head might be swimming, right? You're going, okay, Jim just gave me all these ideas. What's the one? What's this one action doesn't matter. Pick one. Just one of them. You might have 5 action items come out of this podcast episode, and that's great if you can handle 5. You can't write down 3. If you can't handle 3, do 1. Everything I just talked about is outlined in the action plan. Just go to jimharshawjr.com/action. That's jimharshawjr.com/action. action that should be your first action. Grab this episode's action plan so you know exactly what to do. Take action. Good luck. And until next time, take the time to get clear on your goals and embrace failure as a stepping stone on your path to success.